Skylab was never supposed to become a mystery of survival. High above Earth, America's first space station continued circling the planet long after its crews had gone home. The workshops were empty. The experiments were finished. Yet the station remained where it had always been, crossing oceans, passing continents, returning again and again over the same turning world. From the ground, it still looked like a future waiting to happen. The mission was over. The station was not. That created an unusual possibility. If Skylab could remain in orbit long enough, perhaps it could be visited again. Perhaps it could become part of another chapter. Recovery concepts existed. Engineers continued studying options. The station had already survived longer than many expected. So a simple question began following it around the planet. If Skylab was still up there, why couldn't it simply be used again? Each orbit seemed to support the idea. The station continued circling Earth with thousands of miles of empty space beneath it. The planet filled only part of the view. There was still distance, still separation, still time. At least, that was how it appeared. Because the countdown threatening Skylab was not happening inside the station. It was happening inside the environment surrounding it. The sun became more active than expected. Energy flowing into Earth's upper atmosphere caused that atmosphere to expand outward. The change was invisible to anyone looking up from the ground. But Skylab felt it. The station began encountering more atmospheric resistance during each pass around Earth. Not much at first, just enough to matter. Altitude started disappearing. The station was still orbiting, still functioning as an object in space, still surviving. Yet every orbit ended slightly lower than the one before.
That puts reentry dangerously close to the launch.
Forecast charts began shifting. Engineers projected Skylab's future position, then revised it. Then revised it again. The station remained visible above Earth, but the forecasts were becoming less reassuring. Time was no longer accumulating. Time was being consumed. The change introduced a new question. How quickly could Skylab fall? At first, the answer seemed manageable. The station had survived this long. Recovery concepts still existed. Future spacecraft were under development. If enough additional time could be preserved, perhaps a mission could reach Skylab and raise its orbit. The possibility felt real because the station itself was still there. Each new sunrise over Earth revealed the same enormous structure crossing the sky. Hope remained attached to a visible object. But another image began appearing beside it. Calendars. On one side were recovery concepts and future capabilities. On the other side were orbital forecasts moving steadily closer. The two timelines were no longer advancing together. They were separating. The vehicle most often connected to Skylab's future was the Space Shuttle. In theory, it offered a path to reboost the station and preserve it for later use. In theory. The problem was that the shuttle followed its own schedule. Skylab followed gravity. One timeline could be planned. The other was already descending. As months passed, altitude bands shrank. Forecast corridors moved. Predicted re-entry dates crept forward. The station still survived. And strangely, that survival began creating a new problem. The longer Skylab remained exposed to worsening orbital conditions, the more uncertain its future became. The audience watching from Earth could see the contradiction forming. Survival should have created opportunity. Instead, opportunity kept disappearing. If additional time was the solution, why were options becoming fewer? The answer emerged slowly. Skylab had survived into the wrong future. The station's unexpected longevity carried it forward long enough to encounter environmental conditions that accelerated its descent. Meanwhile, the capability needed to save it remained locked to schedules that could not move fast enough. The rescue was not impossible. It was late. That distinction changed everything. A station once viewed as a future asset became a clock losing altitude. The recurring image changed with it. Early in the story, Skylab floated above Earth with wide separation beneath it. Now Earth occupied more of the frame. The station's orbit wrapped closer around the planet. Each forecast revision narrowed the available future. Eventually, the conversation changed. Preservation stopped being the goal. Control became the goal. Attention shifted away from keeping Skylab in orbit and toward influencing where it would return. The station was still circling Earth, still surviving, still refusing to disappear. But every additional orbit now exposed it to the same worsening reality. Forecast maps spread across the globe. Tracking corridors narrowed. Possible re-entry locations shifted from day to day as engineers worked to understand where the station might come down. The pressure was no longer about saving Skylab. It was about reducing consequences, aiming the inevitable. Final orbital maneuvers attempted to shape the outcome as much as possible. Ground tracks were monitored, predictions updated. The remaining opportunities for control grew smaller with every pass around the planet. Then the atmosphere finally won. Skylab descended into denser layers of air. Heat and stress built rapidly. The station broke apart during re-entry. Debris scattered across a path stretching over the Indian Ocean and parts of Western Australia. The countdown was over. But the ending changed the meaning of everything that came before. At the beginning, Skylab's survival looked like hope. A station still orbiting Earth seemed to possess a future. By the end, that same survival looked different. The station had not died too soon. It had survived long enough to enter a future that arrived too late. The technology to imagine a solution existed. The station itself survived long enough to make that solution seem possible. Engineers retained enough control to try. What disappeared was the one thing no design could manufacture: time. And so the final image is not debris falling through the atmosphere. It is the station much earlier, still circling high above Earth, appearing safe, appearing preserved, appearing to have years ahead of it. Knowing now what that image actually contains. Not a future waiting to happen. A future already slipping away.